Good afternoon. These notes are on percent problems, and this should be page 90 in your notebook, and this is the beginning of Unit 10. So at the top, I've actually given you two ways that we're going to solve percent problems. The first method is the proportion method, where you do your is over your of equals percent over 100, because percent means to be out of 100. Or you can simply just call it your part over your whole is equal to your percent out of 100. Then a different method is the equation method. So you're going to translate the sentence into a math equation. It's your part equals percent times whole. Of just means to multiply, is your equal sign. So let's start with the very first one. I typically do the proportion method a lot, but we're going to try both. That way you can be familiar with both. All right. Okay. So number one says, what percent of 120 is 30? So 120 is my whole and 30 is my part. So I'm going to say 30 out of 120 is equal to my percent, or my x, out of 100. And now that I have this nice proportion set up, I can do my cross product. Now here, normally what I'm going to write is an x. I'm not going to normally write just the percent, so it should just be an x. So 30 times 100 is 3,000. And 120 times x is 120x. And then from there, I'm going to divide both sides by 120. And I get 25%. And that's just one way to do it. Another way to do it is that we can say of is to multiply. So you could say that 30 is 120 of what percent? So it's always your part equals your whole times your percent. We don't know what the percent is, so that's why we write x. So then what we're going to do next is we're going to divide both sides by 120. And in your calculator, 30 divided by 120 is 0.25. And so when you're doing the equation, you actually have to change your answer to a percent. So 0.25 as a percent is 25%. So both methods, the proportion method and the equation method, you still get 25%. And you can also look at it this way. 30 out of 120, well, that's 1/4, and 1/4 is 25%. All right, example 2. Now they're giving us the percent, and they're giving us the of, which is the whole. So we look back at our proportion. It's your is over of. We don't have our is, we don't have our part. We do have our of, 50%, or 50, is equal to 18% out of 100, because your percent always means to be out of 100. There's my nice proportion. I can cross multiply and then divide. So 50 times 18 gives me 900. 100 times x is 100x. I know to divide by 100, and 900 divided by 100 is 9. And so my whole is 9. So 9 out of 50 is 18%. And you can check it too. 9 over 50, is that equivalent to 18 out of 100? Well, 9 times 2 is 18, 50 times 2 is 100, so I know that 9 works. Those are proportional. So that's one way to do it with the proportion. Now if we're doing it with the equation, 18% of 50, so we don't know our part, so our part is equal to 18%. So here's where it gets tricky. Go back up to the top, see where it says percent must be in decimal form. So what is 18% as a decimal? 0.18, and that's going to multiply the 50. So 0.18 times 50 gets us 9. So in our calculator, we're simply able to put 0.18 times 50, and we got 9. So 9, again, is our part. We were able to get the same answer both methods. And you're going to eventually be able to choose which one works better for you. All right, next question. %% of what number is 45? So we have our percent and we have our is. Remember, is your part. So 45 is 40% of, and we don't know our whole. And there's our proportion. All we have to do is just cross multiply and solve. So x times 40 is 40x. 45 times 100 is 4,500. And then divide both sides by 40. That doesn't seem right. Oh, no, we're fine. And you get 112.5. So 45 out of 112.5 is 40%. And we could check that on our calculator. So 45 out of 112.5, look, 0.4, isn't that 40%? Because that's 4/10, and 4/10 is 40%. So we know that 112.5 works. All right, that's the proportion method. What if we want to try the equation method? All right, the equation goes like this. 40% of what, so we don't know our of, is 45. So 40% of what is 45. Notice how Ms. Hooks put it as 0.4 or 0.40 because you have to change your percent to a decimal value. So it's always your percent times your whole, or your percent times your of equals your is, or your part. So then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.40 or 0.4, either is fine. And 45 divided by 0.4 gives me 112.5. Okay, and then the last one, what percent of 86 is 16? So this one's very similar to the first example. So what percent? So we don't know our percent. So we don't know our x over 100. But we do know our of is 86 and our is 16. And then from there, we could just cross multiply, or something I like to do, just do 16 divided by 86. And you get 0.1860, blah, 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 blah. And then what that is then you just multiply that times 100. And you get 18 point, and we'll just go to the hundredths place, so 18.60, which is just 18.6. And then the equation method, we would say 16 is what percent of 86. We know how to solve this. We want to divide both sides by 86. Which isn't that what that looks like over here anyways? And then 16 divided by 86 gives us that 0.18. But remember, we're going to have to change this to a percent, so we multiply times 100, and that's where we get the 18.6. Okay, so then what I want you to do is I want you to try these 5 on your own at the bottom, or try these 3. Numbers 5, 6, and 7 on your own. And then number 8 and 9 we can do together, and then on the back side you'll try those as well. So a metal bar weighs 8.15 ounces. 93% of the bar is silver. So how many ounces of silver are in the bar? So we have the total weight. 93% of that is silver. So we have the whole, we just don't have the part. And you'll notice that I like the proportion when I'm writing, because it helps me to keep everything organized. So we know the whole bar weighs 8.15, which is why I have it as the whole. And then I have the percent 93, so now we're trying to find the part, which is the silver part. All right, so 93 times 8.15 is 757.95. And that equals 100x. So now I'm going to divide by 100, and that gives me 7.5795. And we'll go to the thousandths place. So 7.5, well, thousands is right here, which means that has to round up to a 0, so that's going to round that up to an 8. So 7.58. And we can say ounces. All right, and then number 9. A serving of ice cream contains 340 calories. 187 calories come from fat. What percent of the total calories come from fat? So we have our whole, which is 340 calories, and we have our part, which is 187 calories. So our part over our whole is equal to our percent over 100. And again, normally I write the variable for x, but I just want you to get used to that percent is always out of the 100. A quick, easy method, when you have part and whole, just divide. It's just kind of a little bit simpler than cross multiplying, but you can always do the cross multiply if you'd like. So I get 0.55 and then multiply that times 100, and there's my 55%. So in the serving of ice cream, 55% of it comes from fat for the calories. All right, so now what you're going to do is pause the video, and then you're going to complete the 3 questions here, and then you're also going to do the questions on the back. And then I will put the answer key up in just a moment. All right, here are the answers for numbers 5, 6, and 7. And if you notice, I used the proportions for each of these. And then over on the back side, here are the answers for numbers 1 through 9. And if I made any mistakes, just let me know, okay? Or I didn't make them, Miss Mooks might have made them. But if she made any, just let us know so we can fix them on the comments. And then here are the answers for numbers 10 through 13. All right, if you have any questions or comments, just put them at the bottom of the video, and then I will see you guys tomorrow.